Hi, I am Anna. I come from www.ntvforex.com. Weak Chinese retail sales data highlights concerns of a possible second wave of COVID-19. http ntvforex.com News ID FC9823 7/16/2020 10:22:39 am. Notes Observations. ECB likely to adopt a wait-and-see approach and refrain from implementing any further measures. Plethora of Chinese data during Asia Session Week. Retail sales data getting the attention as consumers seemed extremely guarded and likely still feared a second wave of COVID-19 outbreak. Asia. New Zealand Q2 CPI registered its first decline since December 2015. QQ 0.5% v 0.6% EYY 1.5% v 1.4% E. Bank of Korea BOK left 7-day repo rate unchanged at 0.50% as expected. Press conference highlighted concerns that economy weaker than expected and recovery of exports could be delayed. Australia July Consumer Inflation Expectation Survey 3.2% v 3.3% prior. Australia June employment change to 10.8k v 102.0k, largely the result of people moving back into the labour force. Unemployment rate 7.4% v 7.2% E. Australia PM Morrison stated that expected to see impact of coronavirus job restrictions in July job dates. China Q2 GDP QQ 11.5% v 9.6% EV 9.8% prior YY 3.2% v 2.2% E. China June industrial production YY 4.8% v 4.8% E. China June retail sales YY 1.8% v 0.5% E. China June surveyed jobless rate 5.7% v 5.9% E. China Stats Bureau Lu Ihua China economic recovery under pressure. Global economy faces great difficulties in restarting. Coronavirus. Total global cases 13,516,656 1.7% DD. Total deaths 583.5k 1.0% DD. UK's Telegraph. Oxford scientists may have a breakthrough on COVID-19 vaccine drug triggers response that may offer double defense against the virus. Europe. IMF chief Georgieva reiterates view that monetary policy should remain accommodative where there were output gaps and inflation was below target. Debt levels are of significant concern, problems if there is withdrawal of significant support. Americas. US said to consider travel ban on China Communist Party, but Trump might ultimately reject possible travel ban. Tells aides he did not want to escalate tensions. WSJ poll showed Joe Biden extending lead over President Trump to 51% vs 40% prior. Saw a 7-point lead. President Trump appointed Bill Stepien as his new campaign manager. Speakers fixed income FX commodities Iratum. Equities. Indices STOXX 6000 0.89% at 370.52. FTSE 0.84% at 6,240.05, DAX 0.81% at 12,826.55, CAC 41.02% at 5,057.05, IBEX 35 0.56% at 7,446.00, FTSE MIB 0.35% at 20,210.50, SME 0.81% at 10,375.00, S&P 500 futures 0.84%. Market focal points. Key themes. European indices open lower across the board and continued into the red as the session progressed. Energy and financials among better performing sectors. Consumer discretionary sector leading to the downside. Press reports AstraZeneca's collaborative vaccine with Oxford showing positive results. EU review of EssilorLuxottica's acquisition of Grand Vision. Delayed earnings expected in upcoming U.S. session include Johnson & Johnson, Bank of America and Abbott Laboratories. Equities. Consumer discretionary DIA.ES 6% sales, Heineken NL 2.5% outlook. Richemont CFR.ch 5% sales, Experian EXPN.UK 1% trading update, Hayes HAS.UK 4% sales, GVC Holdings GVC.UK 5% trading update. CEO to step down. Healthcare AstraZeneca AZN.UK 1% speculation on vaccine. Industrials Alstom ALO.FR 1.5% earnings. Telecom Telenor Tel.No 3% earnings. Speakers. ECB's Lagarde said to pause regarding any additional need for more stimulus to assess incoming data. Bow credit survey defaults expected to rise in both household and corporate loans in Q3. UK DMO updated its bond issuance plan and now saw a minimum April NOV issuance at 385B. Insight DMO increases bond sale plan by another 110B. Indonesia Central Bank Gov Warjio pre-rate decision press conference noted that the global economic recovery was taking longer than expected, hampered by rising COVID-19 cases. Rising geopolitical tensions between US-China was increasing financial market uncertainty. Domestic economy contracted in Q2 with a recovery seen beginning in July. Vowed to continue to work to keep inflation within the 2-4% range. China Foreign Ministry spokesperson Hua Chunying reiterated stance that hoped that US-China one-phase trade deal would be implemented but added US bullying was not good for mutual trust and cooperation. Currencies fixed income. USD was slightly firmer after several sessions of losses. Dealers cited weak China retail sales data as the key release during Asia and highlighted that consumers seemed extremely guarded and likely still feared a second wave of COVID-19 outbreak. EUR/USD hovered around the 1.14 level in dull trading. Focus was on the upcoming ECB meeting. Dealers believed that the ECB would likely to adopt a wait-and-see approach and refrain from implementing any further measures. Economic data. NL Netherlands June unemployment rate 4.3% v 3.6% prior. EU27 June new car registrations 22.3% v 52.3% prior. UK June jobless claims change 28.1k v 566.4k prior. Claimant count rate 7.3% v 7.8% prior. UK May average weekly earnings 0.5% EV 1.0% prior. Weekly earnings ex bonus 3 MY 0.5% EV 1.7% prior. UK May ILO unemployment rate 4.2% EV 3.9% prior. Employment change 3M 275k EV 6k prior. FR France June final CPI 0.1% v 0.1% EYY 0.2% v 0.1% ECPI ex tobacco index 104.0 v 103.9 E. FR France June final CPI EU harmonized 0.1% v 0.1% EYY 0.2% v 0.1% EID. Indonesia Central Bank buy cut 7-day reverse repo rate by 25 bps to 4.00% as expected. Italy May total trade balance 5.6 bv 1.1 b prior. Trade balance EU 1.5 bv 1.0 b prior. TR Turkey June Central Gov T budget balance try 19.4 bv 17.3 b prior. EU Eurozone May trade balance seasonally adjective 8.0 bv 4.5 b trade balance NSA UNA OI 9.4 bv 2.9 b prior. Fixed income issuance. ES Spain Debt Agency Tesoro sold total 5.971 b versus 5.06.0 b indicated range in 2025, 2029, 2035, and 2050 bonds. Sold 1.53 b in 0.0% January 2025 SGPB bonds average yield 0.194% v 0.153 prior. Bid to cover 2.48x v 1.79 Spreer. Sold 921M in 0.60% October 2029 SPGB average yield 0.279% v 0.438% prior, bid to cover 2.69x v 1.48x prior. Sold 1.42B in 1.85% July 2035 bonds average yield 0.694% v 0.945% prior, bid to cover 2.02x v 2.43x prior. Sold 2.10b 1.00% October 2050 SPGB average yield 1.205% v 1.673% prior. Bid to cover 1.42x v 1.17x prior. FR France Debt Agency AFT sold total 10.836B versus 9.511.0B indicated range in 2024, 2026, and 2027 bonds 4 tranches. Sold 2.739B in 0.00% March 2024 OAT average yield 0.58% v 0.36% prior bid to cover 2.25x v 2.36x prior. Sold 4.307B in 0.00% February 2026 OAT average yield 0.45% v 0.40% prior bid to cover 2.12x v 2.48x prior. Sold 1.990B in 3.50% April 2026 OAT average yield 0.47% v 0.17% prior bid to cover 2.41x v 2.71x prior. Sold 1.800B in 2.75% October 2027 OAT average yield 0.38% v 0.05% prior. Bid to cover 2.25x v 1.28x prior. IE Ireland Debt Agency NTMA sold 750M versus 750M indicated in 6-month bills average yield 0.510% v 0.430% prior bid to cover 3.00x v 4.95x prior. Looking ahead. 0530 ZA South Africa May PPIMM 0.8% EV 0.7% prior YY 0.1% EV 1.2% prior. 0530 WHO Hungary Debt Agency AKK to sell bonds. 0530 IE Ireland Debt Agency NTMA to sell bills. 0550 FR France Debt Agency AFT to sell 0.51.0B in inflation-linked 2026, 2029, and 2047 bonds ODI. 0600 IL Israel Q1 final GDP annualized third reading no ESTV 6.8% prelim. 0600 CZ check to sell CZK 10.0B in 3-month bills. 0600 RO Romania to sell RON 600M in 6-month bills. 0600 RO Romania to sell RON 500M in 3.65% 2025 bonds. 0645 US daily LIBOR fixing. 0745 EU ECB interest rate decision expected to leave key rates unchanged, expected to leave main 7-day refinancing rate unchanged at 0.00%, expected to leave marginal lending facility unchanged at 0.25%, expected to leave deposit facility rate unchanged at 0.50%. 0745 UK BO to buy 1.15B in APF gilt purchase operation 3-7 years. 0800 PL Poland June CPI core MM 0.7% EV 0.1% prior YY 4.1% EV 3.8% prior. 0800 PL Poland Central Bank June minutes 2 decisions ago. 0800 UK Daily Baltic Dry Bulk Index. 0830 US June Advance Retail Sales MM 5.0% EV 17.7% prior Retail Sales ex Auto MM 5.0% EV 12.4% prior Retail Sales ex Auto Gas 5.0% EV 12.4% prior Retail Sales Control Group 4.0% EV 11.0% prior. 0830 US July Philadelphia Fed Business Outlook 20.0 EV 27.5 prior. 0830 US Initial Jobless Claims 1.25 MV 1.314 M prior Continuing Claims 17.5 MV 18.062 M prior. 0830 CA Canada May and L Securities Transactions CAD No ESTV 49.0 B prior. 0830 CA Canada June ADP Payroll Data. 0830 US Weekly USDA Net Export Sales. 0830 EU ECB Chief Lagarde Post-Rate Decision Press Conference. 0845 UK BO to buy 1.15B in APF gilt purchase operation 7-20 years. 0900 RU Russia Gold and Forex Reserve WE July 10 No ESTV $569.8 billion prior. 0945 UK BO to buy 1.15B in APF gilt purchase operation 20 years. 10.00 US May business inventories 2.3% EV 1.3% prior. 10.00 US July NAHB housing market index 6.1 EV 58 prior. 10.30 US weekly EIA natural gas inventories. 11.00 US Fed S. Evans participates in Rocky Mountain Economic Summit. 11.30 US Treasury to sell 4-week and 8-week bills. 12.00 CA Canada to sell 15-year bonds. 12.00 RU Russia June industrial production YY 7.2% EV 9.6% prior. 12.00 RU Russia June PPI 2.6% EV 2.8% prior YY 11.4% EV 14.1% prior. 16.00 US May net long-term TIC flows no ESTV $128.4 billion prior total net TIC flows no ESTV $125.3 billion prior. 18.30 NZ New Zealand June manufacturing PMI no ESTV 39.7 prior. 2030 SG Singapore June non-oil domestic exports 4.6% EV 4.5% prior YY 8.0% EV 4.5% prior. 2110 JPBOJ outright bond purchase operation FOR 1 3 years 3 5 years and 5 10 years and 25 years maturities. 2300 CN China to sell 3-month and 6-month bills. 2330 JP Japan to sell 3-month bills. Subscribe our channel to receive the news as soon as possible. Thank you for watching.